Jesus Christ, I keep getting crushed by these rocks. I keep slipping. God damn. Okay, there's ghosts and Aladdin now. Sure, that makes perfect sense. Okay, there's health over there. I just need to... God damn it! Hey everyone, Wumbo here. I'm back from my short little hiatus that I kind of disappeared online for around 3 months, but I'm back with another request from one of you wonderful people that you left in the comment section below from one of my past videos. This time we're taking a look at 2 games. Yeah, let's see how long it takes for me to follow this up. But in all seriousness, we're going to be looking at 2 games for the Sega Genesis, both Disney related, believe it or not. My good friend and certified bish over here, Easy Ass, review Lion King and or Aladdin. I ask which versions of the game that I should be playing, and he says the Super Nintendo or the Genesis versions, or compare both of them. But unfortunately, I don't have a Super Nintendo, so I can't really do that. And I know the Super Nintendo version of Aladdin is significantly different than the Genesis version, so maybe there could be a future video. I could make some sort of thing out of that if I ever get a copy of it, but I don't know. Maybe. But in the meantime, I can direct you to a wonderful channel that compares the SNES and Genesis versions of the same game, essentially. The channel is called Console Wars, and they did a great video covering the Lion King, so you can check that out with the little card above my head, essentially. But yeah, anyways, let's not waste any time here and let's take a look at the games. Now, I'm going to be looking at Aladdin first because it was released first in the theaters, which, speaking of which...
Aladdin! Released in 1992, this Disney Renaissance classic has captured the hearts of millions with its great art style, music, and having Robin frickin' Williams in one of his most iconic roles as the genie. Of course, with a film that was huge at the time, and since it has Disney written all over it, you know there had to be a game for it, right? Well, there just so happens to be. Now, before the game was even made, Sega had a good relationship with Disney by publishing games under the Disney license and also having a good relationship with Disney's animation department. So when it came time to make a game based on Aladdin, it really wasn't that hard to produce it in terms of getting the license. The game was developed by Virgin Interactive and was designed by David Perry. Now, if you don't know who this guy is, well, he founded a little game studio called Shiny Entertainment, which is most famously known for Earthworm Jim 1 and 2, and of course entered The Matrix, that very interesting game to say the least. Perry's still involved with the gaming industry as of late, working with Sony under the Genki subsidiary, which if you don't know, they make PlayStation Now, essentially. Also, and to be perfectly honest, this shocked me when I looked through the game's credits, but the music was done by Tommy Tallarico, a guy known for, well, a lot of game soundtracks, and was also a co-host for like a bunch of shows on G4 back in the day before they had a bunch of reruns of Cops for some weird reason. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Remember when I said that Sega had a good relationship with Disney's animation department? Well, it was so good that they actually helped the game's character animation, which obviously shows. To spoil the review for a bit, the graphics and the character animations look fucking great for when this was made, and especially for the Genesis. Now, as for the game itself, it follows the movie's story for the most part, with of course a few exceptions. So if you need the story's rundown, well, just watch the movie. Although the game really focuses on the first half of the movie rather than the second half of the movie, as of after escaping the Cave of Wonders, you have 4 more levels in the game, and that's about it. They kind of skip for the whole Aladdin wishing he was a prince part of the movie, but that really doesn't matter here. Since the game follows the movie's story for the most part, we get some cutscenes in between levels, but it just seems kinda lazy to be perfectly honest. Instead of seeing what actually happens in the movie, we just get some still images over text. Kinda dull, but I mean, I guess it gets the job done.
Except for that. His face over infidels, just... God damn it. Okay, please someone make that a meme. That better be a meme.
I should mention that the gameplay is a standard 2D action platformer. You got a sword where you can swing at random enemies, and apples where, well, you throw apples essentially. You kill the same 3 guys with swords, fishes, guys in barrels, and whatever the hell this thing is. The apples you throw are in an arc, which makes sense, but sometimes it can be very inconvenient on where you're throwing stuff. Like, you could just barely miss an enemy. But at the same time, it's much more reliable than the sword, with the hit detection being pretty fucking shoddy. For example, as you can see me spamming the B button until the sword actually makes a hit, even though I'm right in front of the damn guy. Also, the hit detection on Aladdin is, well, shoddy as well. You could be very far away from an enemy, but you could still get hit. From random guys who swing their swords 5 feet away from you, to bats and rocks flying right in front of you. Especially in the Cave of Wonders level. Don't even get me started on that level. This level is a prime example of cheap enemy placement where bats are conveniently placed in the fucking way of everything, from climbing on walls to getting health. Another annoyance is that the actual platforming in the game is pretty precise in what you need to standard jump on, and sometimes it isn't exactly clear on where you need to go. On one of my least favorite levels in the entire game, the Escape from the Cave of Wonders, the platforms and the placement of the lava pits that lead you to instant death just seems cheap. Look at this, I need to be past the ledge just so I can make that jump. Jesus Christ, fuck this level. Another example where this is very apparent is going inside the genie's lamp. Yep, that never happened in the movie, but it's still kinda cool to see what's basically Genie's home. Although I could recall a DVD that could let you do that as well. But that was made like years ago, and the CGI is kinda crappy, and I don't know. Anyways, this level is also kinda crap, where the actual platforming itself is very cheap on where you land on, and the level doesn't even seem to be laid out very well, with a lot of areas where you just have to take a leap of faith since you can't see what's on screen. Now, most of the levels are laid out to where you're pretty much going up for a majority of the time, from jumping up on platforms to falling on rocks, to the magic carpet taking you to certain parts of the map. This is cool, but at the same time it's a little disorienting on where you need to go, which leads to a few dead ends and bottomless pits. Overall, I would have to say with the game's problems, it makes the game way more difficult than I expected it to be. I should talk about the game's minigames and other game modes. First, there's 2 minigames that you can do when a level is over. The Genie slot machine, which is basically a slot machine, that gives you extra lives. The other is where you play as a Boo, and you get gems and avoid pots and enemies. You can use these gems at the game store whenever that's around, and oh, I kinda forgot to talk about the store. Oh shit. Okay. Remember the merchant guy from the opening of the movie that basically tells you the entire plot of the movie? Well, he's in the game, selling stuff in certain areas of each level. Yes, he even found a way into the genie's lamp. Who'd have thought? What he sells is extra lives and wishes. Now, wishes are basically continues, but it makes me wonder why they call them wishes. I mean, if they call them wishes, why can't Aladdin just wish to save Jasmine in the middle of the game?
You know, I'm gonna check the game's manual. I think it actually talks about this. Page 15, page 15. If Aladdin could wish for anything, it would probably be to defeat Jafar and save Jasmine and live happily ever after. But he wouldn't want to give up all that fun he's having as a street rat. That makes no fucking sense!
What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the other game modes where you play. Well, there's really only one other thing that's different compared to the typical side-scrolling levels, and it's this magic carpet level where you escape the Cave of Wonders. And wow, this certainly shows off the system's blast processing, whereas, Jesus Christ, this level goes by way too fucking fast here. Like, God, it's almost impossible to beat this level. What you're doing is dodging stuff while the level is going faster and faster, and on the surface it doesn't really look that hard, especially since you have an arrow that's pointing you into the right direction, but sometimes that's not even reliable. But even if you mess up too many times, the game skips you to the next level, almost like the developers knew this part was bullshit. One last thing to talk about here is the game's bosses, and well, they could be pretty much summed up to being way too easy by spamming your apples as your main strategy, or way too hard with the amount of crap that's on screen. That makes it apparent at the game's final boss, but I mean, hey, it's the final boss, so it's supposed to be the hardest part of the game, but it's still unfair in how far the flames hit your ass, and the amount of times the fucking snake thing spams it.
Now, throughout this review, it kind of seems that I've left this impression that I don't really like this game, but that's simply not the case here. I think the game is okay for when it was made, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that just bring this game down for me, especially with its bad design at points.
Needless to say, the game looks great, I love the soundtrack. Well, I love the movie's music, so Tommy Tallarico did a great job doing 16-bit renditions of great music, and of course his own original tunes. At best, this game is a solid 2D action platformer with a great Disney-coded paint, but at worst, the game has bad enemy placement, bad hit detection, and platforming that just makes the whole experience, well, not fun. Oh, and I should also mention that even though the game has 10 levels, it's pretty damn short. Even though, like I mentioned, the game is very difficult thanks to the game's flaws, which does extend the game's length, I guess. I think the game can be beaten in about an hour if you know what you're doing. So overall, I think the game has a few strong points, but I still can't ignore the glaring missteps that this game has. But as it stands, Aladdin for the Sega Genesis is an okay action platformer with problems that makes the game a little bit more inaccessible. I can see how some people remember this game fondly given its license. As for me, I can think of a few better games, especially on the Sega Genesis. But overall, the game looks great and sounds great, but the gameplay just needs to be more refined.
Well, that's it for this episode. Next time when we come back over here, we're going to be looking at another game for the Genesis, The Lion King. So I hope to see you guys here, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe and all the usual YouTube crap. I'm hoping to have more content on this channel, and since Gaming Etc. is back, that seems like a huge possibility. I'm really excited for that show and for this series as well. Thank you guys for watching, and stay beautiful.